Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you too can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show, and I am a life and business transformational success coach, illuminating and empowering others to find and embrace their life purpose, live their highest vision, and forge a strong foundation to what? Soar to success. That's right. Find out more information at ldcstrategies.com and loriannecasdia.com. Today on our show, I'm excited. I have another one of my sister authors from Women Who Dream. Suzette Perez Tate is a modern day grandmother and the creator and co-author of the #1 best-selling Amazon children's books, The Grands, The Race and Time with My Grands, and the most recently co-authored #1 international best-selling book, as I mentioned, Women Who Dream. Suzette and her husband, Dwayne Tate, have been together 35 years and have a blended family with 5 children and 5 grandchildren. God bless you. She recently earned her MBA, proving to herself that it's never too late. Love that, Suzette. And for over 10 years, Suzette struggled with fitting into the one-dimensional image and characterization of how grandparents are highlighted in children's books and society. She couldn't ignore that many family dynamics and the way that grandparents show up in their grandchildren's lives were not being represented. So what did she do? Of course she did. She created the Grands Modern Day Grandparent Series. It's a beautiful book series for children. It is important to Suzette to create an experience through her children's books that provide inclusion and diversity, creating grandparents and their grandchildren where families can see themselves. Welcome to the show, Suzette.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. So I know you've written a couple of books. I see your children's book right behind you. You've written, you're one of the co-authors on Women Who Dream. You are just out there moving and shaking. I love that you said it's never too late. I went to law school when I was in my 40s. So it's one of those things you go back and you could do it. Nothing. You're never too old, never too late, right?
Exactly.
I love it. And you do not look like a grandparent. So I don't even know how you even call yourself that. But that's another conversation for
right.
Another.
We'll get into that.
Yes, without a doubt. So let's unwind for our listeners. And what was the inspiration behind your book?
So, as you talked about it in my intro, really, it was about not feeling like I was represented in children's book stories. It kind of started there, or actually even prior to that. The idea of becoming a grandmother, it wasn't that I wasn't happy, that my children were having kids. Of course, I was excited about that. But the label and that stigma, just like you said, you don't look like a grandmother. And that's because nothing out there shows us how we look, because this is not new. If I think about my own mother, she didn't look like the one-dimensional character that's out there. Right.
Right.
And a lot of, if you think about your friends, family members, or strangers that you see, that are grandparents, it's not represented. And so for me, it all stemmed with kind of probably within 10 years of my first grandchild, which my stepson had, our first one, it just kind of grappling with that. And then finally, when my daughter, who I'm very close with, and I had a lot more engagement with my granddaughter. Sure. I think that relationship there, I would share stories with strangers. I would share stories with friends and family. And I would think, gosh, my story is different than what's in these children's books, that are out there, and just the image alone. And not only is my story different, but their story is different than mine also. So I needed to actually represent more than just myself. Right. So that's where this all came about.
I love that, because when you think of nannies, you think of grandmas, you think of nonnies and nonna, you think of a gray-haired little woman who sits in a rocking chair and knits or something, very stereotypical, right? And that's anything from the truth, because they're vibrant and still working. And, I'm amazed at all the things that they do. And they're out going with their friends to see shows and things like that. Nothing as what it was represented when we were younger, right?
Absolutely. And I actually do this skit for some of my marketing at times. I do have on the traditional, gray hair with the bun, glasses. And then towards the end, I'm like, because today, and I take off the wig. This is how I grand, showing that there's a
Yes.
difference, that, and that's not to say that that those books don't depict things that are actually out there, because it is, everybody has a different style, a different way that they show up for their grandchildren. Those books are needed. I just wanted to add a seat at the table and to be able to add more.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. And you can find the grandparents series on Amazon.com.
Correct, on Amazon. And so the series is titled The Grand's Modern Day Grandparent. Okay. Our grandchildren don't know that this is what it is, but I wanted to be able to put this out in society to show that this is modern day now. This is what it is. It's the reality, and a lot of people may think, well, they dye their hair or they do this and that, but guess what? That's the reality. That is what our children, that's what they're seeing,
It doesn't matter. That
right,
doesn't
exactly.
Yeah.
And if you think about like some celebrities, like even like Goldie Hawn, she does not look like the typical one-dimensional character that's, in books, and she's a grandmother, and she's out there on I think I saw a trampoline one time, and she's in her 70s, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. So we do as human in society, and it's something we're wrestling with right now, is we evolve. So what used to be acceptable years ago, centuries ago, in some circumstances, is no longer acceptable. And that's called evolution. So just because something happened back then, it was acceptable at that time. But then we got smarter and said, you know what? Not a good idea. Let's grow. And that's what we do. So the same thing with this evolution of the Grand's Modern Day Grandparent book series is that we evolve. We're no longer, nanny in the rocking chair, what was it? The Beverly Hillbillies, that's the visual you get. That was nanny, right? So that's not what a grandmother looks like. You're what a grandma looks like, and you're quite beautiful to boot. So who's your audience for this series? Because I do want to get to Women Who Dreams in the next half hour.
Yes, absolutely. So my audience really is, grandparents, trying to give them a space where they can celebrate being a grandparent, right?
Yes.
And being excited about it, because it is an exciting, experience. And that's exactly what I'm trying to give them, is an experience as they go through these stories. And then grandchildren, your grandchildren, usually it's, age 0 to 12 years old, as far as if you're looking at from who do I buy this book for, as far as a student, I would say 0 to 12 years old.
What's the coolest thing about being a grandparent?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What is the coolest thing about being a grandparent?
I think many would say that you can give them back after, but I think what's so neat, I have to tell you, is that the things that you get to share with them, right? So they'll ask you questions too. And just that engagement of being able to share your life beyond just being a grandparent. So you're sharing, what did you like to do, when you were my age, Nana? Because I'm called Nana. And in our book, we have 6 different characters so that I could try to make sure that many families are seen within this series. But I'd say that sharing my experiences with her of growing up, letting her know about, that I have a career, that, this is what I do. I share with her the things that I do for work, and then sharing the book, that I started the book on the side. I do have a day job. And that was important for me in this book, to show that there's careers that grandparents have.
Yeah, without a doubt. So I know you have a lot of different characters in your books, and let's talk a little bit about the characters in your stories. What kind of characters you have, other than, Nanny, Nona, all the different names that we call our grandparents, right?
Yeah, sure. So, and I'm going to just kind of share this.
Yes, please. Let me see.
So this is
so beautiful.
One. This is the Grands, the race. Okay. And the reason it's called this is because there's 6 characters here, 6 grandmothers with their 6 grandchildren, and they're running through a charity race. And as you go through this charity race with them, you get to learn about each different grandmother and their family dynamic, because it's different. For example, myself, I'm an out-of-state grandmother. And so that's Nana in there. So I have myself and my granddaughter in there, Nana and Charlotte. And then we have a grandparent. A lot of times you'll hear that, oh, I got to go pick up my granddaughter after school, because you're helping, because it takes a village, right? So
It does.
you'll see that you have a grandparent in there where they're helping with after school daycare. Another one where their family lives with the grandmother. Okay. And then another one where two of them where they have moved close to their grandchildren so that they can see them and visit them and interact and engage. And then finally, you have another character where this character's name is G-Ram. She has her grandson Jake, and he actually lives with her while their mother is away at this time.
Oh, wow. What was your experience with your grandparents?
So I had to say, for me, my experience was very limited. My grandparents, I did not really know my grandfathers, but my grandmothers, very strong women. And I definitely had that matriarchal presence where they're very much dependent on, right? But it was very limited because they did pass when I was a young girl. I will say the one grandparent that was not necessarily my grandparent, and she would always say this to me, that I'm not your grandma, is my mother, because I would refer to her as grandma to my daughter, and she'd say, I'm not your grandma. But I would say that she actually gave me that. She was probably giving me more of what a grandparent should be and what it is, and something that I could emulate.
So what is it? What is it that you think a grandparent should be providing for their grandchildren? And I guess that differs depending on what the relationship is. There's so many different relationship types, right? And you just mentioned a lot of different family units, right?
Right.
So,
yes.
So how did that affect you and you writing the series?
So I think for me, I was able to draw on my own experience, right? And then those that I heard or listened to, and where they shared their experiences with me, I was able to kind of take some of that and use that as some influence into building out my characters and building out the experiences that they have with them. But and your first question was, what does it mean to be that grandparent? Kind of what's your role? And you're right, it is different. For me, where I stand, I'm out of state, and I will tell you, I get phone calls at times from my daughter, and I'll get phone calls sometimes from my granddaughter, either one telling on each other, kind of. They really look at me as this, voice of reason, like, Nana, I want to tell you something, and she'll tell me, and we'll talk through it. She's 9 years old. She'll be 10 soon. But yeah, so that's kind of my experience, is that I love that I think I'm looking at it through a different lens, right? Than as being a parent. And it's exciting. It's truly, if I had one word, it's exciting.
Well, you're a role model, you're inspirational, you're a sounding board, and you can help both parties get through their relationship too. So that's where the matriarchal kind of labeling comes in, is that grandmas, nanas, and nanas, they hold the family together because they're the people that they go to for the guidance, because they're sage and they have the experience. You've gone through this before. This is not your first rodeo. So, and I love that you created the series that relates to that. The other book that you have back there, I would love to see that as well. The other children's book is also part of the series, the Grand Modern Day Grandparent series. And what's this one about?
So I actually, when I went about, I had no idea what I was doing going into creating a children's book. It was more of a movement that I really wanted, to get out there. And this was kind of my platform to do so. So in creating this, we had so much material, my co-author and myself, that we were able to split our book in two. We had enough material for two books right out of the gate. Lovely. And so this second one is Time with My Grand. So in the first one, it's more of an introduction to the grands, the characters, and their family dynamics, right? So this next one talks about individually how they're spending time with each other, and introduces, as you can see, they have, compared to the first one, they have this, their race outfit on. This one, they have, you'll see right here, we have a doctor right here.
Oh, yep.
As one of our characters. So they're also going into what their career is, because that was so important for me, that to make sure that they're really represented as an individual. Again, you're not going and visiting them just on holidays, or because maybe you are, but you're not visiting because they're sick or they're ill, right? There's so much more. And that's what I wanted to make sure that.
Well, grandparents are full humans as well, and have, the good, bad, the ugly. They have a career experience, they have life experience, and to share that along. And that's what we do for each other, because we always serve our former selves, right? So, and that's what we do as grandparents as well. We're serving our former selves. We know that if you put your hand on the stove, it's going to be hot, you're going to get burned. So make your choices now. And we stand by, and we're also, I refer to it as cleanup crew, because we really kind of guide them along. And when they make a mistake, and we all do, we're there to help them through it and clean it up, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So what's your writing background? What started you into getting into writing?
So I didn't have a writing background necessarily, aside from I have been working for a technology company for 28 years. So any business writing, I would have that. And that was it. And it's amazing when you see yourself come out on the other side, when you look like, oh, wow, I just did that. Right. And it wasn't about publishing a book. Again, it was about a movement, because this is really my, platform to start everything that I want to do, to open it up. But yeah, so I didn't have it. I had the content, and I had the experiences and the passion behind it. So what I did do, though, was I wanted to partner with someone. And so I did find somebody that actually had experience in, they had a journalist, I think it was journalism degree, and also had some experience in playwriting. So that is what they wanted to do. So they had that passion there, and they loved the concept. They could definitely see it and feel it and embraced it. So with that, I was able to kind of start. So anybody who is has a passion for something or wants something to get out there, know that it can get done, because I do not have that writing background necessarily. And I never really had the passion to, I'd say, author a book. That wasn't my thing. But if you're passionate about something, you got to rip the Band-Aids off and go for it.
Without a doubt, if you get that fire in your belly and you have this thought, just pursue it, just go after it. I say embrace it. No matter what anybody says, embrace it. I know that I came into writing my chapter for Women Who Dream, and I had this fear of writing, that I had to jump over that hurdle in order to really get my message out. And that was way more important than the fear I had. And the fear was developed, believe it or not, from a junior high school English teacher who told me I was a horrible writer. And so I carried that through my adult life until I just recently met someone who said to me, what's more important, the fear that you have or the message you need to get out? And I said, well, that's easy. It's the message I want to get out. And she was like, well, then let's just do this. We can fix this. And when I went to law school, I'll never forget, the law professor was like, why do you get paralyzed when we say we have a project to do? And I told her the story, and she goes, Lorianne, you have syntax issues. Those are what editors are for. Don't worry about it. Get your voice out there. And those people are the ones who inspired me along and kind of pushed me along. And it took years between that legal writing professor and me actually writing the book. But you know what? We got to be inspired, right? And that's where you were inspired. When we come back from our break, I really want to talk to you about some of the process. I love the fact that you fleshed out your books using a PowerPoint deck. And we're going to talk more about the PowerPoint deck and that process, because anybody who's looking to write, I think that is a brilliant way to do it, and there are a lot of different methodologies. I think this is a really brilliant one because it's also visual. So as you're doing the deck, you're also visually doing that. But before we go to break, I just want to ask you, what's your why? Why do you do what you do?
It's interesting. Recently, I think the last couple of days, so I'm actually going to be launching next week, book 1 in Spanish. And I'm doing some marketing right now. And I had sent some books as a preview to some families. And I had one of the mothers tell me they love this story. Their kids enjoy it. And the one thing that this is the why, is because her daughter, she said, my daughter pointed out the different characters. And she said, thank you so much. I love that they can see themselves in these stories.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. There's a lot when you can associate yourself and see yourself, because then the possibilities are there if you didn't feel like they were before. So I love that you're putting that out there in such a diverse way. So it's really exciting. You are listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. We are here with Suzette Tate, unbelievable author, has a series, has this other book. She's just a fabulous writer and communicator. And we're going to take a short break and come back and continue our conversations with Suzette Tate. You can find her children's series on Amazon.com. And I would really encourage you to reach out to see the Grand Modern Day Grandparent. Two of the books right now are The Race and Time with Grand. And you're launching soon in September. We're just around the corner from it, actually, where you're going to be launching The Race in Spanish. So we're really excited about that and so happy to have you here. We're going to take this short break. We will be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. If you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, your product, or non-for-profit, this is the place you want to be. Just give us a call or an email. And if you have any questions or comments, we love hearing from you. Please email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. And whether your goal is improving your health, increasing prosperity in business, developing a business and marketing strategy, are you a Super Bowl? You know what that means. If you've been listening to me, or nurturing your spiritual growth, you're right in the right place. We can help you lift your mindset, harness your talents, remove that resistance, and rise above your limitations. You will be empowered to create your desired reality as we guide you along, and we are results based on the approach of shifting mindset and achieving your goals in business through personalized strategies. I'll show you how to do it. But in the meantime, what we want to do is come back here and speak to the great, wonderful Suzette Perez Tate. We're talking about her two books, called the Grand Modern Day Grandparent series. One book is The Race. The other one is Time with My Grand. You can find those books on Amazon.com. And we left off, Suzette, on the first half about how you created and what your process was, and that you created a PowerPoint deck to flush out the ideas. And the book series was the first step in your branding, right? So I want to talk about all of that. So take us through the process, because a lot of people go, well, how do you do it? I want to do it. How do you do it? I don't know where to start. So what does that sound like?
Yeah, and I'm still doing it. So I'm still learning every day, right? So
aren't we all?
As far as the concept, I knew that concept was there. In 2018, my mother had passed away. And about 3 months later, my husband and I went out of town. And as we were driving back home from out of town, I happened to have my laptop on me. And as I mentioned, I am 28 years with technology company. And so, of course, I had to flush it all out, everything I was thinking, right? I could not stop thinking about this concept. So I put it all on a PowerPoint deck. I talked about the different book names, the different stories, the different characters, what I wanted after the book series, right? Because that was just my platform to get in, talked about merchandise,
right?
Yeah, merchandise, cartoons, just really a movement to put out there. And so I fleshed it all out on a PowerPoint deck. And then I started to socialize that with people, because then I had it all. Now I had kind of more of a clear vision. I had it all out, and I was able to show that to people. And for me, the validation of them understanding it, that was it, right? That's all I needed at that moment. But then it was like, okay, now what?
But the other thing is when we share it with other people like to help people succeed. Believe it or not, people do like to see other people succeed. And if they know somebody who knows someone, they're thinking about it. It's top of mind. If you really made an impression, they're going to really help you. So sharing is really, really an important step. It also helps make you accountable to take those next steps, because they'll be checking in with you. You want that accountability, right?
Yes, all of that was happening actually. And I didn't actually realize that until you mentioned this right now, because my first person that I shared my deck with, and they won't have all the answers for you or anything, but listen, you just want to listen, because there's some things little nuggets you can take from it to move forward with, right?
Yes.
And that happened to me actually. I was actually on a business trip with one of my coworkers, and I was sharing with her something because her husband actually was an author. And I was like, hey, I want to do this. And we were Googling things. I remember one evening, and we were looking at, what's out there right now. We looked, all the images were the one-dimensional character. There was nothing like what I had, in my deck. And she's like, yes, you have to do this. And she shared with me, some things that her husband would do for characters using fiber, for example. So I started there. And I took that and I went through about 6 different illustrators, and it's kind of comical, the things that you would see, even for my logo.
So let me just back up for a second for our listeners. Is that Fiverr.com is a website that allows you to go and find people who are experts at different levels in their respective fields. So if you're looking for a graphic artist, or if you're looking for a virtual assistant, or if you're looking for someone to do a website, you may go through that process. It's a different kind of process. I look at it as you really don't know what you're going to get it. So you have to have a trial and error. But the whole concept was for $5, you get somebody who could do your logo or could do a character. And you have to keep trying until you find the right connection for the right character look and what you're looking for, because every graphic artist has their own style. That's why they're called artists, right?
Absolutely. And you're so right on that. It was quite an experience. Like I said, there were 6 different people that I went through, right? Because I wasn't finding just that right one. And even for my logo, there was this one person who they just weren't listening to me. I was trying to explain my concept to them, and they sent me an image of an older lady with gray hair, that one-dimensional character, right? And I said, no, you don't understand. None of my characters look like this, and none of them, and they have careers, And so she sent me one back, and she was wearing a suit with the same character, though.
Yeah.
So. Well, I knew that one was the one that I was going to go with, right?
From a marketing standpoint, for me, though, that also proved out your concept as well, is that look at right here in the graphic industry, that's what they're depicting. That's the iconic, depiction, and you're changing that with what you're bringing out there. So I love that you stuck to your.
Yeah. No, it didn't represent the brand at all, right? So I went through that, and the person that I did find, found Haley. Haley Moore is my illustrator on the book, and she did a great job. There's the process itself. It was neat. We actually used Pinterest for some of the communication back and forth, to find the styles, just the right styles that I was looking for each one. Yeah. Because I do have, a profile for each one to show this is what they like. This is how they dress. This is their demeanor. There's a lot that goes into creating these characters.
Absolutely. Anytime we do branding, we do things like that, because you need to create your avatar. We need to create the branding. So we use those Pinterests, and we use the boards to put them up and move them around, almost like you may or may not, you may be too young for this, but remember color forms, where you used to take the dresses off and put them back on, right? They were, if you don't remember those, Google it, but it's, they were like little outfits that were in vinyl that you would pull off and put on, and you could redress them. And it was really cool. And they had them for boys and for girls. So they were really cool, but it reminds me of that. That's kind of what you're doing. Pictures, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so we did that. And this was coming up during the height of, of the pandemic, because we're in 2019 doing this, getting my characters just how I want them. And then, 2020, we are fully in the story mode. So I had built my characters before we actually started most of the story. And so once I got the characters down, we then, my co-author and I, we started to work, and we worked remote. We actually don't live very close. We're probably 60 miles or so apart. And if you're, I'm from Southern California, so 60 miles, out here is quite a distance in LA traffic. So, so we did work remote a lot, and which was okay, because it was during, the pandemic, and we got a lot done. We actually, and then I got to a point where, how do we got the story done. We see it all here. We have all our illustrations. What's next? And so I actually, at that point, found somebody who had published a children's book through our publisher, Kate Butler. So I was able to go with her, and she was able to help me now get it over to the finish line.
That's beautiful. And that brings us to the most recent book that went #1 international bestseller in 6 countries, and that's Women Who Dream. And your chapter is called How Do You Ground? We all know and understand why your chapter is called that, but tell us a little bit more about your chapter. And I love this process. And oh my gosh, the 30 authors, or I should say the 29 other authors, that one is just as remarkable as the next. So it's been so exciting to work with all of you and be part of this process. And Kate is just brilliant at what she does. If you ever need that information, just send me an email to healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. because I'd love to hook you up if you're looking to do a book with a really strong publisher who really understands the process and gets you, like you said, over the finish line. So tell us a little about How Do You Ground?
Yeah. So, shortly after, I think it was like 6 months after my second launch for book 2, Time with My Grand, the opportunity came up. It actually had come up, I think, the book prior to this one, and I wasn't ready yet. I still was working on book 2. And so, but at that point, I thought, oh yeah, you know what, this would be great opportunity for me to market more, right, with Women Who Dream. But I have to tell you, I was in for a surprise that it was more than just a marketing, technique to utilize this book. You have no idea when you're going into this, what it's going to open up for you as far as, it's opportunities, but there's other things internally that it does for you.
Sure. Well, she kind of opens us up and makes us raw. She makes us vulnerable. She allows us to go to that space. She creates a safe space to allow us to go there and really take the strength to jump over the fears and the hurdles that we have put out there for ourselves, those blocks. She gives us the tools and really brings us along in a very loving, beautiful, what's the best way? Like nurturing way,
yeah.
That you just want to do another book and another book, another
yeah.
book. And,
it's funny you say that.
So yeah, Kate, it was really good at holding this really nurturing space for us, right? And just getting the best out of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there were things that I had to revisit, that nothing really dark, but it was just things that I'm a doer. So I don't take the time to celebrate. I don't take the time to reflect as I should. I'm learning to do that more. And so this was, such a more of an exercise for me in going through this process to revisit things, because I had no idea. I knew that I wanted to market the book and brand it, but I had no idea what, topics I was going to speak on. And so she did a great job with providing us with people who have been there before, right? So they were able to tell us how they went about their process or what their story was. And there were a couple of them that I watched that just really sparked with me. And as soon as I got to writing, it flowed out. Everything. I just started back from, as a child. And what I didn't realize was the connection that brought me to the Grands. I didn't realize, I think, until I went through this, actually what that connection was. So
yeah. Well, and some of our self-talk, matter of fact, it happened today. I actually was golfing, and before we came into the studio to do this, and I was playing golf with 2 people, my partner, but then also 2 other people who get partnered with us. And he was beating the living daylights out of himself. And the self-talk was so negative and so aggressive. And finally I turned around at one of the holes and I was like, be nice to yourself. You're not stupid. You're not bad. This is not, I said, be nice to yourself. Think of a different way to approach this as opposed to beating the bejeebas out of yourself. And yet he was having a great time, but he was just being really hard on himself. And I said, what's a different way to really have that dialogue with yourself? What would have been, what's your learning curve out of what you just did? And he goes, well, I should have probably kept my head down. I said, so say that to yourself. next time I'll keep my head down, as opposed to saying, oh, you're, crazy, stupid, all these other things that he was saying with a little bit more flair in his language. So it's the same thing. We learn that process as part of our process, which is interesting because, as a coach, I teach that. As a coach, I guide my clients with that. But going through it myself, the same thing that happened to you, it was like, oh, that's where it came from. Now I know what the process is. Now I understand it. And things came out that I wasn't anticipating, and yet was the perfect timing. As we always say, we're always in the right place with the right people at the right time, right?
Absolutely. And, it's funny that you mentioned that about, your interaction this morning, because I think since this experience, I'm a little bit more sensitive to that kind of energy, and I want to be out of it or away from it, so much more now. And I do find myself trying to exit, further from such negative energy.
Yeah, that comes with learning how to vibrate higher. And as we vibrate higher, we those people will fall away because they don't resonate with us anymore. We don't want to spend time in that space. We were there. And one of the things that could happen, on the radio, you can't see my hands, but if you take your hands and you put them at an angle, you could slide back into that thought process. And so we will reach down and lift people up to where we are in that vibration, but sliding back into that bucket is not where we want to be. So, and I think that's what you're feeling with that. So
it's very noisy.
Yeah. Oh, it's very noisy.
Yes.
Very noisy.
Yes.
It's very quiet up here. It's very zen in the vibration here. And it allows you to think clearer, and have these kind of thoughts where you can write a chapter for women who dream and have these books that are coming out. I'm so proud of you that you're going to have the books available in Spanish. I'm sure you're going to go into all different languages. I can already see it. I'm really excited for you. And the concept is really beautiful that you're really opening and creating a safe space that allows people to really look at grandparents in a different way in how we are today, as opposed to how we used to be, and there was nothing wrong with how it was. It's just that we evolved, right? So we're living longer, we're doing things longer, 60 is the old 40. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. And, and that's basically what we've been transferring to and growing as humans. And that's something that we have to allow ourselves to do. So hopefully we're getting better as we mature, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing. But if you had any last thoughts for our listeners, what would that be?
Embrace, if those of you that are new brands that are coming out and, that are kind of, not wanting to be, you're looking for your grandma name. A lot of people, we even have a glamma in the book, for those, embrace it. I have to tell you, it's such a fun experience. You have these littles that I think I heard somebody say before, if I was a grandparent first, I would have been a better parent. And it's so true, it's easier. And I get that you don't have the day-to-day, the struggle, if you don't live with your grandchildren, but I don't know, there's just something, it's beautiful. I
also think we relaxed in it. We were able to grow our children. They, that whole process, and we can relax into it because we're in more guidance. So we're more in the observer than the ego. Yeah. When we're a parent, we're working in the ego with emotions. When we're a grandparent, we're really an observer looking in and kind of tapping them along, kind of like how cats play with toys. They tap, 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 tap. You ever watch them play? They bat it. That's kind of like, as grandparents, what we do is we kind of help our children along with their children. And we get to spend that quality time with our grandchildren that we were so busy working. We might not have spent it with our kids. So we get to spend it with our grandkids, right?
Yeah,
so it's great.
Your stories of your life, share yourself, share those things that are, that as a child, even if you think about the games that you played as a child, it's so different from today, and try some of them, like, just tag, they do tag now, like Red Rover, just different things that, you played as a kid. It's so new to them that, you'll actually be a hero.
It's so true.
Share.
I want to bring the slinky back. Anyway, the modern day grandparent, Suzette Tate, you are amazing. You can find these books, The Race, Time with My Grand, and of course, Women Who Dream, on Amazon. Suzette Tate, Tate. You have to look her up. You are magnificent. Congratulations on your new launch, going into Spanish. And like I said, into the many other languages I know your series are going. Please, would love to have you back when you write your next book. And I know you will. So that's really good. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I know you have a lot of choices and that you spend this time with us. Really, really, we are so grateful for. Again, I want to thank my guest, Suzette Tate. If you are looking for a business coach, accountability, strategy, direction, a sounding board, someone to help streamline your business or more, and you're not sure, feel free to reach out to us at 516-983-3591. Let's see if it's a good fit. I can certainly help you soar to success. Thank you again for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. Look for our show next Saturday at 3 p.m. Until next time, I am Lorianne Casdia. Play your higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big. Have a great day, everyone.